Join us, the Humanitarian Heartbeat Podcast, on a journey where we delve into the heart of the matters that truly make a difference. Our mission is to create a platform where we can openly discuss topics that often go unnoticed or unexplored. We aim to shed light on these crucial issues and have meaningful conversations. We invite you to tune into our podcast, where we will explore the depths of these subjects and let our hearts guide the conversation. Together, we can create a space where everyone's voice is heard and where we can collectively work towards a better future. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Humanitarian Heartbeat Podcast. I am your host, Nia Imani, and this phenomenal gentleman right here on the screen. His name is Kenneth. Kenneth Thompson. Kenneth, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much, Nia. I have to share with you, I've watched your podcast many times, as far back as last summer, and to actually have you on screen talking to me, I feel like I'm like I'm in the presence of celebrity here. You know, it's like you're so friendly, it's not intimidating, but I mean, seriously, you're doing amazing things.
Oh, well,
So I appreciate you inviting me on.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, he is too modest, because when I read this short, modest bio, we'll get into it, why he's really the celebrity and why he's actually amazing. Listen very closely. So if you're on YouTube, look with your eyes. If you're listening, Apple, Apple Podcasts, or however you're listening to audio, get very close, turn it up. This phenomenal man, Kenneth Thompson, is the founder and CEO of the Musical Arts Center of San Antonio. You kind of see it on his shirt right there.
MACSA, yeah, there we go.
Yes.
That's important.
One of the premier, you heard it first, music education institutes in Texas, with a career dedicated to nurturing talent, enriching communities, and transforming lives through music. Kenneth leads a team of world-class instructors who believe that music is more than a performance. It's a powerful vehicle for personal growth, emotional wellness, and service to others. Kenneth, how did music become your love? Let's talk about that.
That's such a great question. You know, it's I came to this piano late. You know, for when I mean, there've been I've known a few people now that have come late, like myself. So I started at age 13 at piano, but I tried a bunch of instruments prior to that, but nothing really engaged me. I had a lot of music kind of around me. My dad was also a rock and roller. We were talking about my dad and his art before, but he was a rock and roller. He was also a football star too, so this is all over the place with all these things that he did. So so he was a songwriter, a bass player, and so there was music around me, but I really hadn't found my musical identity. Nothing was really resonating with me, and in fact, when I would hear classical music, I found it kind of boring and hard to relate to. But when I was 13, a bunch of sort of things came together at once. That's how God works sometimes, right? All these things come together at once. And I happened to have a piano teacher living about a block away from me who happened to be a fantastic beginning piano teacher. So she was very engaging and very understanding of my youthful angst and teenageness, and I got hooked. And she was just a wonderful teacher. So, but I still wasn't really hooked on classical until about 5 or 6 months in. I heard this piece while I was cleaning my room. It was this very fancy, Moonlight Sonata, the last movement of the Moonlight Sonata. So the first movement's very pretty, super pretty, more famous, way more famous than the last movement. The last movement is super crazy fast and all this. And I was just kind of, I had enough knowledge to understand that this was a very amazing thing for a human being to be able to do. Not only to write it, but another human being to actually play it. I was like, that's it. I want to do that. So that's how I got hooked. And I think because I was one of the first in my family that, well, actually not one of the first, the first that I'm aware of that was really into classical. Like, people really didn't understand that, and I had this real passion for sharing, like, why it is that I love this music. So when I used to give concerts, I used to like to speak to the audience about, what to listen for, and even like how long the piece is. Because sometimes with classical stuff, you're in for a ride, baby. I mean, you're going for a while, and there's this kind of intimidating aspect to it sometimes that can be there that doesn't have to be there. Because what I'm going to go aside for just a second. One thing that people forget is these composers were all humans. They were all human beings. They ate, they drank, they had arguments, they were in love, they did all this stuff, right? So I always kind of saw it from that perspective. So when I would share that, with audiences, they could just kind of have a hook into the music, which is what I had when I finally got engaged with this music. So yeah, so I got really passionate about not only the music itself, but sharing why it's so amazing, and and I just, that's kind of what I've kept doing, I mean, with teaching and with the school and all this kind of stuff. I would liken it to like when I've gone to a museum sometimes. Like I mean, I've gone to museums admittedly just to like go and feel like I did something, cultural, you know what I'm saying? And because they had a really good cafe, that kind of thing. But like, and you go there and you're like, okay, this is cool. But if you have a really good like guide, and they're like, and you can look at one painting for 45 minutes with a really good guide, right? And then you look around and there's like all these other paintings, and then you're like, oh my goodness, this is like treasure that now my mind is open to this treasure. So I just love that experience, that experience, that opening up of our hearts, our minds, our hearts, to, and our souls to these things. Because the other thing that happens with all this kind of stuff is we're also connecting across time.
Mhm.
We're connecting across time, souls from 400 years ago, 300 years ago, 200 years ago. The things we're writing today, maybe 200 or 300 years in the future, people will be relating to. There's this amazing time element with art. So yeah, I just love all that kind of stuff. So that's what got me in, if that answers your question. So
It does. And so let's just go back, when you were
yeah,
cleaning your room and you heard
yes.
that, like, did you stop cleaning? Did you clean more rigorously? Like, what did that moment do?
Well, first I need to state that getting me to clean my room was a major, major issue in my life with my mom. Just ask my mom. So the fact that I was actually cleaning my room was pretty remarkable in and of
Okay.
itself. But I totally stopped. I was just like, I stopped and I was like, it was like, I mean, this is what it felt. It felt like a light from above hit me. I mean, it was like that remarkable. It was like a conversion experience. It was like that deep. And and it was, and from then on I was just like, that's what I want to do. And I starting late, of course, when I started, I guess I was more in the casual student zone. And then turned into this very serious student, and to the amazement of everybody who knew me, because I really hadn't been very serious about many things, before that. But there was just something that, yeah, caught me. So yeah, so I stopped in my tracks. I went and got my mom to listen to it, and I mean, she liked it too. I mean, but I don't think she wanted to turn into a concert pianist. Uh, I never asked her though. Maybe we need to ask her about that. But maybe she did. I don't know. I never asked. But I totally stopped, and it was just like, yeah. And then after that, I was kind of annoyingly into it. I mean, I was like playing music, classical music everywhere. When my grandfather would take me fishing, I'd put like, this is back in the day, we had like tape recorders. We'd stick it on the boat, blasting Beethoven. It was like, I don't know, I was so weird. I was such a weird kid. I don't know, what can I tell you? But I was so into it, so into it. Because I finally found something that I really resonated with. So,
I love that, because on the heels of that, what was it like? And I don't know if you knew then, but what is it like to live in your purpose? I mean, because you said
mm,
you weren't really serious
yes,
about things before,
right.
and now.
Yes. Oh, that's such a good question. Yeah. This is that touches on a major issue about purpose and life, right? And finding that purpose. I think my purpose has expanded, as we live and grow, right? Hopefully our purpose, well, it changes. I think now it's to help people reach their potential, and to help them to thrive in some way. And part of that is having this flame of energy that comes from finding something that really resonates with you. But definitely before that, I have very clear memories of just kind of like feeling lost. I used to watch a crazy amount of television, you know, like I was a latchkey kid. They don't, you know, and made my own, you know, dinners and whatever, because mom was working so hard. She was working like 3 jobs, you know. So, you know, so it was a very, I had no talents, you know, I had no sense of well, yeah, like a purpose, like a reason to be on earth in a sense. Although I knew that there was, I did have the sense to know that there should be a purpose, you know, that I knew that there should be, but I didn't know what it was. And so I will say that the pathway to finding that for me was that there was a person who was not my parent who engaged with me as a human being through something that I ended up liking a lot. And of course, we're saying all this to hopefully resonate with some other people who may be kind of, you know, still searching, because sometimes you may be in your 30s or 40s, you know, before you find that thing, you know, that thing in your life. So yeah, but it was a sense of, I think we all have to have that purpose, you know, and we are like a, you know, plants can grow in the dark to a certain extent, but they're very confused, you know. And when the sun comes out, they finally grow in that direction, right? Because they know where to go. It's kind of like that. We need to find our sun, you know, our place to grow towards. And it can be difficult to find that at times. And sometimes we're looking too hard, and sometimes we're not looking hard enough. Yeah.
That's a great analogy. I love that.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Wow. And so you find your purpose. You're playing
Yeah.
classical music while you're
Yeah.
trying to get a fish with your grandfather. And, you know, how did this propel? Like, tell us the story. How did this propel
Sure.
to stopping and cleaning to look at your shirt? Like, this,
Right.
you're a teacher. Like,
Right. Right.
tell us this
How to, oh, that
journey.
was, yeah. So, okay. So I, once I got really serious, I decided that, I first of all, so what we do these things called piano competitions or music competitions, which is kind of a weird thing. I mean, it's like doing I mean, because music is supposed to be something to be shared, and it's like cooking, right? Cooking is something to be shared, and yet, you know, there's tiers of chefs, right? And there's cooking competitions. They're all over the whole Food Network is pretty much cooking. I love watching those things. So, you know, so if you think about it like a food competition, so there are piano competitions, and what happens in reality is if you're doing well in the competitions in high school, well, you tend to be recruited by the high level college teachers, and then you kind of maneuver through the field like that, right? That's kind of how it happens. So I was aware once I started competing that I was competing against people that were like, you know, had been playing since they were 3 or 4 or 5 years old, you know, and I'd started at 13. So I was, I had a lot of catching up to do. So I decided that I would work. Well, what I decided was this. I thought, okay, realistically, these people are probably practicing an hour and a half a day. If I doubled that, if I practiced 2 to 3 hours a day, I could do in 1 year what they were doing in, I mean, no, I could do in 1 year what they're doing in 2 years. You see what I mean? So, and then I also decided that I would do everything my teacher said. I mean, like if they said it, I would do it because I was thinking that the teacher is further along the path than I am. And I will share with you that one of the challenges of teaching is that people don't always do that, right? They don't. And by the way, I was definitely not perfect with this. This was an aspirational goal. Please understand. I have multiple failures that I'm perfectly happy to talk about if you want to do that. But I decided at least that I was going to try to do that, to follow their directions and to put in more time than my competitors would. And that's basically, you know, what worked for me. I worked my tail off. I had a great teacher and I did what they said. I mean, it's kind of like, and also I would say that I put my heart and soul into my playing. So that I wasn't, because there's this thing called technical development that is like the athletic side, you know, and the athletic side does take some time to develop. So I was definitely weaker in that, but I had more like more came across the stage, you know.
Mhm.
I was into acting too for a long time, so I kind of put the acting self into the music and could reach people like that. And so that's actually kind of how I was able to, so what happened when I got recruited was then that, oh, he works really hard. His teacher is saying he follows all the directions, and and he puts his feelings into it. That, you see what I mean? Like, that's a pretty attractive combination for a teacher at the college level. So yeah, so anyway, so I did that, and then what happened was I got to this. I mean, I'm just going to say facts, okay? So I went to Eastman School of Music and studied with one of the top piano teachers in the world, Nolita True, and one of the things that's tricky with these teachers, it's again like coaches. There's a analogy there, except that coaches are working with a whole team.
Right.
So what happens in the music world is the teacher's only going to have about 12 or 15 students, but in a place like Eton or Juilliard or whatever, they've got 8 teachers with 10 or 15 students, so those are their tribes.
Mhm.
Okay, so to get into that person's studio is very, very hard. It's world, I mean, they're recruiting for the whole world, literally. So you get in there, right? Okay, so I go there. My teacher was amazing. Loved the incredible teacher, but the environment of the conservatory,
Mhm.
ooh baby, not nurturing, not made to be nurturing, not supposed to be nurturing. But what I needed was more nurturing.
Understood.
So yeah, I needed more nurturing, and I didn't go there right away. I went to for a couple of years to my local college, which was great, was actually perfect for me. But I needed more nurturing, so I went to Eastman, and now I'm in the big leagues, and suddenly there, I mean, it's a totally different ballgame. Like, there are doctoral students that are literally having concert careers, making recordings like professionally that are students. You know what I mean? Like stuff
Right.
like this. So it was kind of amazing, but also like for a person like me that was what I had done, and I think this is critical. One of the things that got me all into this was that my self-esteem and my way of moving through the world was outside of my inner self. So
Mhm.
I was responding to um, people's praise and support
Sure.
from the outside, which was working when I was in high school, because I was able to, I guess, excel in that environment. So then I go to an appropriate environment, which is one where they're toughing you up for the stage to be able to handle anything. And it ain't like that anymore. And so it's more like, who can we get rid of
Wow.
is the deal, right? It's like if you're going to, like, let's say the Navy SEALs or something, like, like, who can we get rid of, like, so again, I totally understand it, and that's what they're supposed to do. But I developed this massive performance anxiety, and so then after struggling with all the performance anxiety and giving and actually getting burned out and giving up all this dream, giving it all up,
Right.
I then reconnected through another teacher that engaged with me really well. Came back, did all the stuff I needed to do to get my degree and everything, and that experience. And then I also decided I went and gave concerts for a while and did all that kind of stuff. But
Mhm.
the experience with going through this intense love of something, and then having the love of something turn into something that was hated me almost, or I hated it. It was very crazy in a sense.
Mhm.
And then also finding a way to reconnect with it, and
Mhm.
then to play the concerts again, made that's why I got really into this performance oriented teaching. Like, I wanted people to be prepared.
Mm.
This, by the way, this ties into something I want to get into in a few
Yeah.
minutes. We're laying this
I
fertile ground for
I
something I really
love
want to get
this.
into.
I love
So
this.
this experience, then me learning how to overcome that anxiety to get up on stage and play these concerts. Um, and by the way, what I had done with this concert piano thing is, people, it's hard to define what that is, right? What is a concert pianist? Well, some people think of it's just a really advanced pianist, but for myself, I decided it was if I was getting paid for the concert, and if people were buying tickets to go to the concert.
Mhm.
Because if you're doing that, if someone's paying you to perform and people are paying to hear you, that's a different thing, right? Than just performing. So I wanted to get to where I could do that consistently, which I did. But I was really intrigued by this it was almost like another one of these experiences where something deep inside me said, you need to find a way to take all this negative experience that you've had and then transmit this to other people so that they can avoid these things, right? So and that became my mission as a teacher. So I decided to become the best teacher I could possibly be. And I was teaching at one time for 6 years. I taught 7 days a week, which was a crazy thing to do. And yeah, it was insane. I would take off a day. I would take off Easter, Christmas, like, I had a few days off, and I would take a little bit of the summer off, but it was just a grind. So I did that, and I honed my teaching abilities. Again, part of the key here is always to ask, what does it mean to be a great teacher? What does it mean to be a great, an artist? Define what that is. How will you know when you've done it? You want to define this because then you can start seeing the steps, right? You can start seeing the barriers and the steps better. And so that just became, again, a passion. I got tremendous satisfaction, just the experience of helping these students. I can't tell you how beautiful of an experience that was. It was just absolutely amazing. But then I had this energy that I had been spending doing these concerts that was like unmet, this kind of this other pure creation energy. Because I think with teaching, you're doing a co-creation, you're co-creating this experience. But I had this pure creative urge, and that's when I started to think about the school. So that's when I again thought, okay, what kind of school do I wish I could have taught at, because I could have had here in San Antonio when I started. And then I designed it as because my dad being a visual artist as well, I thought of it like a piece of art. I was thinking, think of a sculpture that you can walk into, and there are people in this sculpture, and they have different behaviors, and they all have these different things they're doing, and I kind of built it from that. And they have motivations, and you want to give them certain motivations. So I thought about the whole school from the perspective of a piece of art, a piece of performance art, and then I had to do a whole bunch of accounting stuff to get people to help me. But that's basically what I did. So I got it going, and that's been. I mean, it's kind of insane now. It's been 20. I mean, we're coming on 28 years or something like this. So no, 27. Yeah, 27 years. 27 years. So and then what's been interesting about this whole thing, as with any other piece of art, you have to be responsive to your environment. The world is very different. We started in 1999. Whoa, way back, right? The world has gone through huge changes. I would say every 3 or 4 years, in that time, and we've had to adapt. Even the fact that the parents that are coming to us now were probably in their teens or something when we started, if you think about it. Like we have 35-year-old parents when we started ish. So they were like they were kids when you know what I mean. Like the way people are now is different. And now the thing is, thankfully, the reason that the secret is that even though there's all this difference, 98% of everything is the same, because we're all dealing with people here. It's just the way that we communicate, the way that money works and stuff like that is different. But the key is that we're dealing with human beings, and that's what's the through line there. So
you said, are you a keynote speaker? Because you've said it. So
so nice. Thank you.
I one of the key things that you have said is you've always come back to self. Like how do you I'm trying to figure out how to ask this question, because you've talked about purpose and you knew your
Yeah.
purpose. And even when you got all this praise and then you didn't like it anymore and you had this anxiety, but then you started a school, like
Right.
how?
Okay. Yes. I can pull. I'm pulling it out. Okay. Let me tell you. Okay. I think what you're asking is what do I do to overcome these things?
Yeah.
Okay. So these are coping mechanisms, right? So coping mechanisms can be very useful and can get you out of a situation. The negative side is that they can also then become inappropriate eventually at some point, and then they can actually cause problems. In fact, That's kind of what happened to me. I was this lost child, you know, in a sense. Didn't think I was, you know, I mean, I knew I was special. I think I've always had inside of me, and this is a God-given thing, like an awareness that I'm a soul, you know. And so I knew that. So I don't, when I say not special, I don't mean it in a negative way. I just didn't know what I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I didn't know where my son was, you know.
Mm.
So but anyway, so that praise, that was part of what drew me initially. But then at Eastman, it was totally inappropriate for me to want that. I mean, not to want it, but to rely on it for my self-esteem. The people that were doing well were not real, they were fine. They were human beings and totally solid. The ones that were doing really well. Of course, I didn't know that at the time. I was just thinking they're better than me, more talented than me, smarter than me, you know, all this kind of stuff. But what I've realized is that whenever I faced a barrier, I've usually asked myself, well, I've usually tried to find a way to make it irrelevant eventually, or become indifferent to it. So, and I asked myself, I'm going to give you an example from a friend that I was recently talking to. He just called me out of the blue. He had recently gotten he'd gotten a very positive review, job review, very positive, except that there were like 10 out of 100 people. This is a leader person.
Okay.
Like 15 people were negative, and like everybody else like freaking out positive.
Right.
But there were 15 people that were negative, and he knew, because this is a very smart leader person. He said, yes, I know, I'm obsessed with these 15 negatives, and I just need somebody to talk to about it. I'm like, dude, completely, let's just talk. But one thing I reminded him about was like, let's try to get bigger than this. Let's imagine a situation where where it doesn't matter that 15 people have said something negative about you. What would that look like? Part of it is that you're in this world where that matters. Like, you know, and this person lives in a different city. I said, well, in my city, it doesn't matter that you had 15 people that said something nasty about you. You know, it doesn't matter in my world. If you were, you know, if you became, you know, the, I don't know, governor of the state you're in, then it wouldn't matter that those 15 people, you know, said that. So the point of the exercise was that there are so many states of mind and heart where it wouldn't matter that these people had said these negative things. But once you sort of go there and go, yeah, you know what, that's really true, then it doesn't, then you know that I'm just obsessed with this, and it's not affecting my reality. So what I've always tried to do then is always try to find a way to make the negative thing irrelevant. That's the thing. So find a way to make it irrelevant to me so that it doesn't hold me back. Because what I used to do is I would use the anger as an inspiration, which does work to a certain extent,
right,
and can be very useful. It's just that anger burns the fuel very quickly. It's hard to sustain that. So eventually you need to choose to work towards indifference. And this is also particularly true like in relationships, you know, that don't go the way you want, that when you've become indifferent and to the point of where you can be grateful to the person for what you've learned from them, no matter how they may have hurt you at the time, that is what you should be praying to get to, you know, in a way, you know, because so anyway, so that's in a sense what it's been. That's my overcoming. It's usually been, what is a way to make this not matter? Not that I can necessarily achieve that. Let's say that one of the things is like become a trillionaire. Well, if I'm a trillionaire, then sure, I'd be fine. You know, but the exercise, you know, of putting yourself, when these things are so in your face and, you know, that you're stuck, can be very, very useful to get you unstuck. So that's basically what it is. And often it's been something like, okay, then I sometimes come up with an idea then to do, right? Then to do like this school, or to decide to teach. You know what I mean? You can sometimes it brings up real, you know, concrete opportunities that you can act on. Yeah,
absolutely. And speaking of negative, and then we're going to get into your amazing school, but this made me think of people who think, and I love how you said that you have to be an athletic student. Like, I've never heard that before in music. So
oh yeah,
the negative piece, and what I'm going to ask you is,
Sure.
people say that, oh, well, arts is not important. We can cut the arts in school. Let's
Sure.
have basketball and baseball and football because they can go on
Yeah.
scholarships and they can do great things,
Right.
but the
Right.
arts don't matter.
Right.
Talk
Right.
to me about that and
Sure.
talk
Oh,
about
that's
how there's
yeah.
athleticism in
Oh,
music.
it's huge athleticism. Yeah. Well, okay, so let's talk about this a little bit. So yes, I love sports. Sports are totally awesome. Like
Sure.
I think I mentioned earlier, my dad did all the cool stuff. So he was a football player too. So, but sports is huge, is a big deal. Um, there are some people that are drawn to sports and they get this growth through sports. And particularly I would say like golf and tennis, things that are very solo. Um, Although in music we have ensembles, we have orchestras, we have bands, right? We have all those things and those are much like, playing on a basketball team or something like that. There are going to be some people on the basketball team that are the soloists, right? The stars. Same thing in an orchestra, right? But that's sort of related like that. And there's a lot of self-study that you need if you're going to be on those teams.
Yeah.
But in particular with music, it's more akin to tennis, golf, figure skating, anything or skiing when you're where half the competition is what you're doing and the other half is with yourself. That's the key. That's the key. So the physicality of playing an instrument. I mean, there are pieces that so when we would give a concert, like a long concert, like an hour and a half concert, with we'd have little breaks in there. We would pay, I don't know, 30,000, 40,000 notes. We'd have to memorize everything in order. It had to be all correct. I mean, you could mess up a little bit, but I mean, we're talking like a 0.000001 accuracy, and you're trained to learn this music at an incredibly rapid rate and incredibly accurately, and then deliver it physically with concentration in front of all these people, right? Not and there's a very big athletic part. Now I'm going to also bring in this other side of athleticism. I think does ESPN they still have the poker thing, right? Poker's still on there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, hey, it's I mean, if poker's a sport, okay, my chess, my son is really into chess. There's chess tournaments. I don't, I mean, I would say the energy there is concentration. Same thing with poker, you've got to concentrate. But in music, there's a literal coordinated physicality to it that you have to develop. And in fact, a lot of my work on teaching and also bringing music out of people is on the physical part, like the body structure, the ergonomics. How, I mean, your feet matter when you're playing the piano. Okay, I mean, like that sounds crazy, but literally, if your feet are not placed right, it's going to be really hard to play. Just like if you're swinging a baseball bat, it's going to matter, right? I mean, in anything, when you really think about it, anything sports, the feet really matter because they're the connection to the ground. Same thing. Well, I guess I should also say your rear end matters because you're sitting on a bench and your feet. So your rear end and your feet matter, right? On the piano, anyway. So the thing is that the body, the nervous system, the body, the muscles, everything is a massive part of the study now of teaching technical stuff. So it's a big deal these days. So and most of the time, what blocks people is this blockage is something physical typically. Most people, in my opinion, I think all people are musical, even though some people will say they're not musical. I think they're wrong. It may not have come out of them, but they're all musical. So usually the barrier is a physical barrier. And it's that athleticism piece. So I work a lot on that, a ton, because usually if that's solved, then one, it's a lot of fun, right? It's like it's fun to run if you can run a marathon. Maybe running a marathon is not fun, but running 5 miles is a blast, right? I mean, right? I mean, so like it's just a lot of fun, and then of course your confidence is there, and you're able to really deliver, So
I absolutely love that. So music does matter.
Oh yeah, it matters, right? Sorry, let's get back to the whole part. That's your question. I'm sorry, I totally got off.
No,
off
you
track.
didn't,
Okay,
because
okay.
you
Yes.
explained
Right,
all of that.
right. Well, what I was going to say is that the lessons that are taught. Okay, I've had, my podcast is not nearly as big as your podcast, but when I've done this my podcast, I'm talking to people about their origin stories and things like this. I love to, like, kind of like we're talking now. I love to get into that.
Mhm.
And so we people's relationship with their coach or their band director,
Mhm.
someone like that is critical. This is a person that is different from their academic teachers,
Mhm.
because the academic teachers are teaching a subject.
Yeah.
Okay, if I'm going to go learn biology, I'm going to learn American history, I'm going to be learning the subject, right? When I'm learning sports, when I'm learning to play in the band, I'm learning something about myself,
Wow.
because I am the one who has to do this thing. You see? Right. That's the key. When you talk to people, I talk to very successful people, and you drill back. This is what I kind of like to do in my podcast, drill all the way back to what made you make the decision that ended up developing into this thriving life experience you have. It's usually, it needs to be someone who's not a parent almost all the time. You need the parents ideally, obviously, but you need for this world, let's say, entering into the world, you need an outside source. It's almost always a teacher, and it's almost always a coach or a band director or something like that, or a music teacher.
Yeah.
So that's the key. See, when we're out here in the real world, even with AI, with all this kind of stuff, what's not changing is that we're all human beings out here, right? We got to roll with this. We got to figure this out, right? We have to have resilience and creativity, and we have to have belief and dreams, right? All that kind of stuff. If we have that and grit, we're good, right? No matter what you throw at us, we're going to be fine, you know? So where do you develop that?
Mhm.
Debate, probably, right? Again, you're performing, sports, uh, music lessons, right?
Mhm.
And the thing with private music lessons, this is another big one people don't think about. This is a huge thing with private music lessons. The private music teacher is probably, other than the student's parents, is the only person that child is going to spend time with one-on-one in their lives, and as they're developing. and
Right.
and you know and so, like, I've taken some students from age 6 to 18, and, like, I'm working with them through that whole time. I am me and their parents. That's it. That's the only one who's been through that. Does that make sense? So that piece is so overlooked,
Mhm.
but that is so key, because we're helping develop this being, right, into someone who can add back to the world, right, while they're also thriving themselves. So yeah, I will also say that typically the musicians are a little more introverted. So like the introverts tend to go that musical direction, and a bunch of us are introverted, right? So we're going to be, we need a place,
Right.
to go and to thrive ourselves. And so I think this, having sports and music, is a great. You're going to catch a ton of souls like that, right?
Mhm.
That you can help, because some are going to be drawn to sports naturally, and some are going to be drawn to music. But in all of these cases, and I'm going to put debate in the sports arena in a sense, right? Well, yeah, in sports, because you're performing, right? You're competing,
Absolutely.
you're performing, right? So again, that's how the athletic competition piece, right, connects to the sport piece, if you will. Yeah.
Do you leave a lot of people speechless? Oh my God, let me get to my.
You're so kind. You're like the kindest person. Like, I love it.
I'm very serious. Wow. Like the things that like, I don't know how I thought you were going to answer that, but that just, and the way that you explain everything that you're explaining, it connects to me. You are a connector. Anybody in the world, I don't care what you look like, who you pray to, whatever, what you are saying is touching them.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I think that what we have we so we I mean, differences are important. Differences are important. And yet so much of it is the same. And it's beautifully the same. It's not an ugly the same. It's a beautiful the same. It's a fantastic the same. And leaning into and appreciating the sameness helps us, I think, celebrate the differentness as well, right? It doesn't make us scared of the difference because it's so much the same. And now it's just like, oh, that's cool, that's different. Oh, why do you think that? Oh, that's neat. Okay, don't really agree, or I love it, right? I do really want to touch on something if you're okay with this. Okay.
Please.
Okay, so this is something, having listened to several of your podcasts and these amazing guests that you have on. I'm not including myself in that category at this time, but you can conclude me if you want. But what I'm saying is this: okay, you've got some amazing people, and the work that you do is absolutely incredible. It's so inspirational, and there's a link because part of what, well, here, let me say the thing, and I'm going to get into it. Okay, the thing is that you're a caretaker. Okay, a big part of you is a caretaker, and I think we need to be mindful that caretakers need to take care of themselves. And so often we are so busy caretaking that we forget to recharge ourselves. There's a balance between that giving and also the recharging. And I think for someone like you and the guests that you probably have an energy that is fed when you're caretaking and you're giving, right? There's a feeling of purpose, and like, again, purpose, like when I'm teaching, right? That sense of like, I get more energy. I'm tired, but I have energy, right? Exactly. And it's incredibly gratifying. So I want, but at the same time, like with this, I mentioned my 7 days a week teaching. Well, eventually I stopped doing that after 6 years. I will say part of that was I was trying to pay off all my student loans.
I get it.
And get to where I had the money to open the school, because I did it all self-funded. I had no help or anything. It was all me, all teaching. The whole school is all teaching, by the way. It's all, because I call us a not profitable or non-profitable. It's a for-profit, but we don't make a lot of money, but we do. But the whole thing is from lessons. It's all from lessons. It's no grants or anything like that. We got help during COVID, but I mean, everybody did. But I mean, so the thing is that I had an end point. Like, I knew I couldn't do that forever. But part of that was that I realized that I needed to recharge, because I was getting pretty wiped out. I didn't want to get burnt out again. See what I mean? I'd been burnt out once before. So I just want people to be mindful, the caretakers, because sometimes the caretaking is like, you can sense it in yourself, like, probably from when you were little. And I think your grandmother was a caretaker, if I'm not mistaken, right? And she taught you through her example, right? And your whole family gives that vibe, of caretaking. So there's a lot of energy that comes back a lot to you. But then sometimes people are thrust into a caretaking position, like if they're caretaking for someone who's ill, and I think they sometimes don't know what to do, and they sort of they will exhaust themselves, and what will happen is that they will get to the point where they're unable to care for that person or that cause, if they're not taking care of themselves. So I just want to sort of put that out there a little bit. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that I think when we think of caretaking, by the way, the reason I did this was looking at all your stuff. It's just dripping with giving, love, spirit, and all this stuff. And I was just thinking, like, what could I share that might be useful to this group of people? And I'm not talking about you and all these amazing guests. I'm just talking about everybody else is listening.
I'm listening. Everybody's listening.
Right, but it's just, so what happens, I think, is that we don't realize that there's so many opportunities we can have to give, right, in our lives. Sometimes we feel like it has to be that extreme level, right, and maybe we don't lean into it because we're like, well, I'm not rich enough to give money to this or whatever, and I think that if people will look around them, you'll start to see, like for example, we maybe you're, you, because what I found a lot of times is we'll find that people are giving a lot in their professional lives or something like that, and yet people around them, maybe in their own family, are in need of something, and that person is not getting it to them. It could be time, right? It could be love, or they maybe are giving the love, but the person's not receiving the love, right? So it could be looking close around you. Who can I give to in my immediate environment?
Wow.
And you know what I mean? And I think a lot of times with people who are trying to find something to give to, or who are drawn to give, are usually doing it because they had some sort of a trauma, right? And I know, I believe you also had that in your own life, and you've certainly helped many people who've gone through this. And so this desire to help people not go through that trauma is first and foremost your mind. Just like with me, like when I said, that's why I said this is related to something, because it's like when I went through that burnout trauma, in a way, I'm very grateful for that, because I'm grateful that I got out of it, you know, but it's like, I'm grateful that I was put through that, because then I had a new purpose, which was to work to solve that problem in my little corner of the world. I can't do it with every part of the world, but in my corner of the world, I can do something about this, and I can make it better, right? And if more and more of us are doing that, right, it's this collective energy that I was sort of thinking, like, what if we could get 10% more givers in the world, right? What if we just 10%, just a little bit more, you know? What if people just looked around and said, what can I do today, this week, to make someone's life a little bit better? But maybe these people are literally right next to me, right? Like, you know, they may be right there. They may be your next door neighbor, right? It may be, you know, someone you see every day and you talk to, but you don't have you know, like an acquaintance.
Right.
You know, dig a little deeper. You know, what can you do? You know, I think if let's work on making the world 10% more giving. You know, that's part of what I wanted to get into a little bit, and thinking of like a focus of giving, a giving journey in a way, right? Like what a person's giving journey, like your giving journey. I think your giving journey is generational. Oh, by the way, this is only from what I picked up from your looking at your stuff. You know, you know, but it speaks so clearly to this. You know, what you've put out in the world, right? And so, but your grandmother, I would be very interesting to hear like what it was in her life that developed, you know, this spirit emerged from, that has had a generational effect. You know, this is a little bit like generational wealth, if you think about it, right? Generational wealth of spirit, you know, generational wealth of giving and this connection to people, right? It's a beautiful, and it clearly is, that's the case. You know, I looked at the website on the things you're doing in with those who are unhomed, and you know, it's just clear that there's a generational giving wealth, if you will, right? And I think a piece of this giving thing is gratefulness. When we give and we're helping people, we also realize how privileged and grateful we are to have what we do have, right? Even though there are other things that we want, and we kind of need that purpose, kind of need something we want, right? But we also need to take stock and say, I have this. I need to be grateful when I'm working with somebody, like with even it's more obvious, you have a home, right? And you're working with people who don't have homes. You know, in my case, I got to where I could perform. I'm trying to help people perform, you know, and so but it made me grateful that I could perform. You see what I mean? Gratefulness also makes us aware that what we have is not completely from us, right? It's not 100% us, right? God, the universe, other people, we've stood on their shoulders. And when we know it's not only about us, we then know that we're only stewards of this thing that we have. And we're going to steward this thing, and we need to then pass it on, right? Because we don't own it. We have it, but we don't own it, right? And whether that's wealth or whether that's spirit or what, spirit, I think we could probably own. But you know what I'm saying? Like, we are stewarding this thing. And I think that when we are in that mindset, giving of our time, talent, energy, or whatever it might be, is easier. I think it's easier because it's not like I have this thing, because we know that we're going to have more things. There's a flow. We're participating in the flow. And there are people that are very wealthy and that are very have a lot of things, and they don't give. And I think what it is there's a lot of fear around that.
Sure.
I had to get this thing, and if I don't hold this thing, I'm going to lose this thing, right? And I'm going to and my identity, my home, or whatever, I'm going to lose this thing. And I think there that's a very limited way of thinking about existence. And so, but I think if people could lean into that, and you often see people become much more spiritual if they had a lot of things and then they lose them all, right? And it's almost like that's a big lesson they had to learn, right? And so then they finally get the lesson that, well, wait, like these things are just because see, that's the stewardship thing. They got them and then they got taken away.
Right.
And because they were so obsessed with holding them, they lost them, right? So I think that's something for us to consider in terms of, again, this idea of creating more givers, part-time givers. Is let's lean into gratefulness for what we have, and then let's look close by. What is the need that I'm seeing? What is it? And also in your own experience, what is a challenge or tragedy or trauma that I had, or what is something I witnessed other people go through? And then I'm going to find a way to give because I know I'm going to be receiving. Right? I can afford to give because I know I'm going to be receiving. It may not be the same thing. I may give money and I may get time from you know what I mean? But I will receive when I give in that spirit. So I wanted to lean into that a little bit today. So
are you the male Mother Teresa? What in the world? You are so. I trust me when I say I am not speechless. Like I never am speechless. Like I have always have a lot to say, but you just who taught you? Like I understand like you learned a lot, but like I'm looking at the pieces like behind you, and like did your father teach you this? And just did your mom like
well, thank you for asking that. I mean, I will say that I think part of it was that I was always able to sort of step outside of myself a little bit, because I've gone through some very big depressions and very, 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 I mean, look, everybody has. So when I was at the bottom, part of me was able to crawl up enough to say and look at myself and say, you don't want to be there, right?
Wow.
And I was willing to do something different to maneuver out of that. And often what that is, and it seems sort of dumb when you say it, but it's true, is that to get out of it, you cannot do the same thing you've been doing. You can't think of yourself in the same way. You have to allow yourself to partially die in a sense and then come out of it and as a different person. Although the crazy part about that is each time you go through one of those transformations, even though a part of you dies in a sense, you actually become more true. Your true self becomes more and more clear every single time. You actually become more yourself when you allow. It's like a the animals that shed, like snakes shed, right? It's like they shed. You shed that skin. You can look at it and say, oh, that was me, but that's not me, right? This is me. This is me. It includes what that was, but me is more than that. And I think that's part of it. Was my coping mechanism was to be able to get outside of myself. And then I read, and then of course then I became interested in all these books and stuff, podcasts and everything like that, because I will tell you that one of the things, I mean, I read a lot of awesome books, but what happens is that you're moving through life and all this stuff is hitting you, right? And you can very easily get dragged down into these morasses, right? And so I try to like re-engage, and so that I even rereading books or whatever, just because you learn new things. So part of it is just a curiosity, an awareness of that you do not know everything, and a determination to not live in misery. You know, and I have lived in misery, and I think that's a big part of it. But I will also share this, and I think this is a gift I had from my parents. I did know that, and this is something that not everybody has.
Sure.
This is a privilege that I had. I knew I was loved. And that's, I hear stories where people don't know they're loved, and it kills me. It's so hard. And I didn't have to overcome that, and that's a big one. That's a big one. But even so, those people who don't know that they were loved, they by their caregivers, do have opportunities to learn to love themselves. And there are others out there who will come into that role. And in fact, coaches and music teachers and those kind of people can be that person, right? Pastors, whatever, those kind of people. But I think it was that combination, By the way, you're one of the most positive people I think I've ever encountered.
I know when people interact with you, their lives change. Because I can tell you, just the minutes that I've been speaking to you, you've already changed my life. I can tell you that right now. And I'm not even like, one thing I'm going to do is tell you the truth. In a nice way, I can. But my point is, like, I'm not lying. So let's talk about this, because your students, like, what you teach world renowned. What are your students saying about you?
Well,
I like.
Well, that's an interesting question. Of course, when I'm working with a student, it's very focused on them, right? It's them, and in a way, when we do these interactions, it's focused. I mean, focusing on me a little bit more. Like when I do my, like I said, my much less popular podcast than yours, I'm focusing on my guest, right? Now I'll add little things in there, just like you're, doing, because that's part of the conversation. But when I'm with a student, I'm focusing on them, and what I do is I get into their. And this is going to sound kind of crazy, but I get into their brains. Like I become them. I actually realized that a piece of that was this acting thing that I used when I was into acting.
Interesting.
Because when you're an actor, you have to inhabit the character.
Sure.
And when you're inhabiting the character, what's interesting is you find all these different parts of yourself. Like I really enjoyed once where I played a villain. That was like so much fun. Because that was not a part of myself I had utilized, but it was there. It was definitely there. But it was fun to get it out like that. So I think with teaching, I get into the person, and I inhabit that person, and so I'm experiencing it from their perspective, and then I know what to do, with them, if you will. And sometimes I've heard people say, "Oh, it's like you're reading my mind" or something. It's like, well, I'm not trying to, but I'm once you're in there, right? Once you're feeling I mean, this is a good part related to giving too, in a sense. Like I can get, if I get in the mind of this person I'm in that's struggling with homelessness or something, it's going to be a very different experience for me as the giver, right? Because I'm with them, right? Right. I'm with them. I am them, right? Because they're a person.
Yeah.
They're a human being. They're a different part of their journey, a different journey, but we are sharing that humanity. So when I'm with the students, it's like that. And then, I do a lot of things that there's a thing I say with teaching, is that you have to have a safe enough environment for creativity, and learning to occur, but an intense enough environment for follow through to occur. And what happens is that it's hard to balance those two things: safety, support, great job, and you didn't work hard enough this week, dude. and that balance, and you need both of those things. So it's I have to I have to get inside of their minds, but also keep a little bit of a distance so that I can preserve the what is it, space that makes them want to work, if you will, So it's so that's one of the reasons this kind of experience is really a lot of fun for me. That's why I'm writing my books. I'm trying to get all this out, because like I can't really do it in the lessons, because it's more about them. But I kind of this all this is it's just all part of teaching. Oh, I want to say something. Sorry, I keep interrupting myself. My goodness. Okay. I keep interrupting myself. Where does this all come from? Where does this all come from? It comes from love. It all comes from love. Giving back comes from love. Teaching comes from love. Okay. And I really thought about this a lot. Teaching, if we go back, 20,000 years ago, whatever, and let's say you learn something, you're like, learn some trick, like I can carve this piece of wood better, and I learn it on my own. And it makes it easier to hunt or easier to do something, right? This thing that I've created or, learned. What do I want to do with that? I've got my tribe. I want to go back and say, hey, check this out. Children, brother, sister, friend, this is really cool. I'm going to teach you how to do this thing, right? That teaching comes from that. It comes from nurturing. Moms are, naturally nurturing. It's love. Nurturing is teaching. It's safety, right? And then so all this comes from love, right? And the love comes from God. And sorry, I get teared up talking about these things.
I love it.
Sorry. Yeah, but it comes from, that's where it comes from, And so when we connect with these things, when we're moved by these things, we know we're in connection with that creativity, that creative spirit. And anyway, I just think that this is, if we can all lean into love, right, and all lean into teaching each other, we all say this, right? What would the world be like? Right? Now, what do we do when the world is not like this? We need to do it in our part of the world. We need to do what we can. And then we need to keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. There's that story of the one starfish, right? The thing with on the beach, right? We throw the one starfish back. Let's get some more people to throw starfish. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's just keep going. Let's get some generations of people to throw the starfish back and help us, right? And that's how we'll change the world.
You have since you were born, but oh my gosh, you're going to win the Nobel Peace Prize. Oh my gosh.
You're so kind. You really are. You really are kind. I from the instant. That's one of the reasons I was so excited to talk to you, because there's so much love that pours through everything that you're doing. I mean, really. And I really sense it from your grandmother. I'm sorry to keep harping on that, but it's what comes through your, and your family. I could feel that, and it's and you spend a huge amount of energy on that. And I care that you are recharged, that you recharge yourself. I hope I would imagine you could not do this if you're not recharging yourself, and because I know you get a lot out of the giving itself, right? But in addition to that, we want you to sustain this over another 30 years or something, it's really important to take care of you, right? And because you're always going to take care of people. You're not going to forget how to take care of people if you take care of yourself, and it's very easy to forget that when you're in caretaker. This is true with parents too a lot, right? We can get into these very sacrificial modes, and we forget that we need to grow. We need to show these kids that we are also growing and that we know how to relax, because what are they going to, we want them to live thriving lives, right? We don't want them to be, look, my parents gave everything for me, and then that's beautiful in one sense.
Right.
But it also is not a realistic, because I've also heard adults, say,
Mhm.
my mom gave everything or whatever, and I can't do that, so I don't want to have kids.
Right.
And it's like, well, that's probably not what the mom wanted, right? It's like we have to take care of ourselves in addition to taking care of others, and that's just important. We all need nourishment, right? And then we need to get out there and throw those starfish, man. You know.
Wow. um, I know I had a set of questions. Is
Yeah,
there?
yeah. Go ahead. I mean, I don't want to
Well,
give you
no,
answers I
I
have
just,
for
is
anything.
there
No.
anything that I know what do you want to tell the people about your
Sure.
wonderful school? Like, just,
Yeah.
I'm
Sure,
like,
sure, sure. Of course, of course.
whoo.
Well, thank you so much. You're like, I'm aglow with your positive energy, and that part of me from adolescence that thrived on this kind of energy is just eating all this up, and I so deeply appreciate it, especially coming from you, from all that you've done. Um, and so in terms of, like, it's interesting right now. I'm very grateful to be doing all these podcasts and things like this. Um, but I don't have anything to sell. I'm not selling anything yet. I am writing a book. I am working on that, and I'm at some point I'll have a book. But I don't have it right now. It's all. I've written a ton of stuff, but it has to be all organized and all that kind of good stuff. I mean, you've written stuff. It's not so easy to get it done. And then the other thing is, I'm trying to encourage people to take lessons, especially if they're adults. I'm so encouraging adults, please don't be afraid. Learn something, learn chess, learn a language. We can do translation now, like automatically. Learn a language anyway. Okay, it's good for your brain. You can listen to, that's another thing. You can listen to music, right? You can go watch sports. You don't have to play sports. You can watch it. Like, do the sports, right? You can watch people go to like a trip to Africa. Go to Africa, yourself. In addition, I mean, we need these things, and especially in this day and age. So anyway, so I'm trying to advocate for that. But yes, the school is amazing. We do online lessons if anybody wants to do that. And of course, if you're here in San Antonio, we do mostly, in person, because most people like that. But if you can't make the drive from Philadelphia to San Antonio, it's kind of a long one. Then look us up online. We're maxainc.com. And then my email address is ktompson@maxainc.com, MACSAINC.com. And yeah, I guess I'm just trying to share and kind of, my next few years is, I'm hoping, will be involved in writing and sharing these ideas, and trying to continue to learn myself, and hopefully help people thrive more. So that's it.
Not hopefully. You've done it. You're continuing. I can't even talk. You're doing it.
Oh, I have an Instagram too. It's at ken.creativecoach. So you can find me on there, ken.creativecoach. And I do, yeah. I mean, that's basically it. I just am grateful that you're sharing me with your listeners. I know you got a lot of great listeners out there. Anybody who's listening to this podcast is the coolest. You know it. You know it out there. You're cool. Come on. Smile. It's okay.
Everybody, clearly you're just as speechless as I am. Contact this phenomenal man who will change your life, not only musically, but like your life. So just be prepared to be better.
I like that. I like be prepared to be better. That's great. That's one of the best ways for us to overcome, right? Think about how a plant or tree overcomes the fact that it can't get to the sunlight. It grows it grows to where the sun is, right? Think about, a plant that's trying to grow where there's hardly any soil. It will find the soil, right? You have to find it sometimes. But being better is how you overcome, right? And so then when we're grateful for that being better, once we get strong enough and we're grateful, the next step is then to start sharing, right? Because we then reach a new stage where through sharing is the way we get better, through making others better. That's I think that's the way it works.
Disagree. Your hashtag should be, when you meet Kenneth, your life will never be the same. In a positive way.
Right. That could go
Sorry.
multiple directions. Yeah, I'll have to think of that one. Yes, I like where you're going. I like how you're thinking there.
Contact him. You got the website, you got the Instagram. Whether you're in Switzerland, because I have a friend in Switzerland, you can.
Sweet.
Yes. Lessons.
Yeah.
And I have to now rethink my life in a lot of ways because thanks, Kenneth, because you're amazing. And we're gonna have to do a part 2.
Oh, how cool. I love it. At any time. Like I think you're doing amazing stuff. I mean, really, truly, it's so cool what you're doing. It's a real inspiration. It really is. And the guests you have on, oh my goodness. Like it's an amazing group that you have. It would be cool sometime. I don't know if maybe you've already thought of this. Is get everybody together, get everybody together and let's hang, like just some big, like we'll go to Philadelphia, right? Like a weekend, and we could just all talk to each other. That would be like super awesome.
I like that. No, we're coming to San Antonio.
Oh, you can come. Yeah, that's cool. We got plenty of hotels here. It's a tourist place. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be a blast. Yeah. That'd be fun, right? I mean,
Yes.
You have a lot of, the guests you have are like, they're really cool. And listeners too. You've got, truly, really, the people that are going to be drawn to listen to something like this are people that have that kind of heart, and I think it would be like one of the coolest things ever.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Oh, you're so sweet.
You all have listened to the Humanitarian Heartbeat podcast, and you have heard it from the ultimate humanitarian himself. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the Humanitarian Heartbeat podcast. Remember, each conversation brings us closer to a world where compassion thrives. Stay connected, stay informed, and let's keep the heartbeat of humanity alive. Subscribe, share, and be a part of our journey to make a difference, one conversation at a time. Until next time, keep your hearts open, your minds curious, be a blessing to others, and give agape love. God bless.